Welcome to Treehouse Villains. My name is Grandpa Cato. I'm sitting here with two distinguished gentlemen. Maybe you can call them Who-Man. But we are going to be discussing what brought us into sci-fi. And wherever that may lead us, the conversation may go off track, but that's okay because it's a conversation and that's a jumping off point. Introducing to my left.
What's up? This is the Mossman, Master of the Universe.
Hard to beat. And to my right, I have...
Mr. Cato is how many people refer to me, but you can just say subject matter in many things, and we will put to the test to see if I have any expertise in subject matter for this evening.
Sounds good. So let's, excuse me, jump right into it. And what is something that brought you into sci-fi? Anybody can start.
Sci-fi was always the most fun because it was the most fantasy. It was the most futuristic. It was like
Escape.
Yeah, you could imagine it.
And imagination.
Being real.
Yes.
It wasn't like, you watching something like...
your own imagination to take off.
Yeah, but it was more rooted toward reality because in fantasy, watching guys with,
well, that's
swords
the science
or...
part, to get some element of, plausibility.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Right.
And then you can go off the edge on the plausibility stuff, which over time our edge has gotten further out because
there's more of us to imagine because we've moved through the future. In when the movie 2001 came out, there was it was art was like at its apex in terms of being able to tell a story, science fiction story in film, and now those classic stories are still the great stories, but the films, the art.
Think of 2001 though, as it was a book, but when it came out as a movie, it completely shifted. That was like if Terminator had a great grandfather,
right? Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So anyhow.
Well, you guys got to a good point, talking about...
I'm going to put some chicken in the oven.
She's going to put chicken in the oven.
Chicken in the oven.
But, jumping up, like, Space
Odyssey.
Odyssey.
Answer the question.
Yeah, Space Odyssey would be probably one of the earlier things that anybody kind of jumping into sci-fi in general will end up seeing or hearing about.
Yeah.
I know myself watching it, I was always like, Jesus, what were these guys on? Like, how do you even think of something like this? Especially at the time when it came out.
Yeah.
And it's just such a wide berth from whatever else was coming out at the time. Right. And it wasn't necessarily like the idea was so foreign, but what was being presented, I think at the time, it really stood out as something like, you got to see this. What is going on? You see, and then to think that there's this big twist at the end.
Yeah. Well, that separates from when you saw like the first Man on the Moon, that black and white, where the moon made out of cheese. That was like science fiction.
Yeah.
But that was like totally hokey part, which. Right. Is adorable.
It wasn't supposed to be simulating reality.
Right, but going into space, all those rocket ships and everything.
That's the fiction.
But then that other element of man's creation and it bringing you to these levels that you hadn't considered.
Yeah.
And then there's man's creation coming back at it, which is a great science fiction kind of dilemma,
Yeah.
you might say. How do we prevent...
My favorite story.
Yeah.
My favorite science fiction story.
Yeah.
The robots will win every time. Man has no chance against the, a coming robot apocalypse.
They showed it in everything. Terminator, Westworld, the old Westworld,
in the end,
THX, and stuff like that.
I much prefer that to the zombie apocalypse.
Well, yeah. See, that's like the moon's made out of cheese to some degree.
Yeah.
However, we're living in a real zombie apocalypse now.
Shit, I've seen people on the train with their phone. That's the zombies right there.
But just right around the corner in Mass Ave. That's a zombie. That's a real zombie. That's
serious zombie.
That's So science fiction become reality. We've seen that. It's like zombies. That's real now.
Yeah.
That's a very real thing. Cities across the globe.
Yeah. No, that's true.
That's kind of scary.
That's true.
Where that crazy imagination becomes
that
people
leads
have
into
been
the other part of sci-fi as well, like cyberpunk, and you see these homeless people and they're on their phones. They're still jacked into the system in some way, regardless if they're where they're at. They can be living out of a box, but it's in this point now where they have their phones. They still have a way to communicate and manage their life to some extent, and it's just all around us now. You wear a watch and it tells you your vitals, and sci-fi is definitely becoming more real.
Oh yeah.
Well, and then you think about in the apocalypse, you watch those movies and all of the skills you actually learn. Just watching those movies.
Yeah, you're like, I saw them do that. I'm not going that way.
or even just survival stuff, because that's what they're doing around the corner. But if you want to get back to...
No, it's true though. It's like if you put the planks on the window on the inside, you're doing it wrong. You have to put the planks on the outside, because then, they can't just break right through them.
Yeah, but if they're on the outside, they can just pull them right off.
Well, then you have planks on the inside and the outside.
Right.
But it doesn't matter.
You have
you guys already have
stick on the other end and keep jabbing every time
through the planks, right?
Are you doing a radio show?
That's zombie.
It's time for a commercial.
Yes, time for a commercial.
So anyhow, that's kind of going off on a tangent in terms of where...
I think we're supposed to do that.
Yeah, we're supposed to do that in terms of... So science fiction and zombie apocalypse, there's a connection there, but is that like true science fiction?
I think it stems from just reality. The plague and, all this things that happen over in Europe, and they weren't sure how it happened, but they see all these people getting diseases and just basically falling apart, and you have to pull these stories from experience someplace, and a lot of these people lived that kind of zombie plague and the Spanish flu and all this other stuff, and it's like these big waves wipe people out, and then it's back to kind of normal. But then people start writing about it. Then they're like, okay, how can I put a spin on this? All right, let's make it so they're dead, but they're still coming at you. And all these things start to build, and it's like it relates to reality a lot more than we give it credit.
The vampire movies came out of history, and that turned into a thing. That's the zombie piece.
For sure. But now, what brought you to this? What... we know we all have this fascination.
Comic books.
Yeah.
I used to get Thor and Iron Man, so it was Marvel comic books. I used to sit on the steps with a box of Thin Mints and a can of Hawaiian punch.
Yeah.
And I would read that's what got me really into reading as well.
Yes.
Just the comic books.
Yes.
Which makes me think I should go in the attic and see if they're still real comics. Yeah.
It was the same for me, but not with comic books. It was with the novels. So somewhere in in the time frame where I wanted to start reading books, I would get like old Stephen King books from my mother. She would read something, and I would be watching as she's reading it, and she'd be like, "Oh, what? Oh," she'd be reacting to the story, while she's reading it. So I'm like, I have to read that book. And she's like, "Oh yes, you have to read this book." So I would start reading them after her, but then I would start choosing my own stories or get a book recommended from a friend. And I think it was like all of those old science fiction classics by Asimov and Heinlein
and the doctor that actually delivered you.
Yeah, no, not me, Darren. Yeah.
Delivered Darren.
Yes.
He was a science fiction writer.
Yeah.
Crichton.
Michael Crichton.
Michael Crichton.
He wrote Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
He wrote
the
Dr. Spock.
The Andromeda Strain.
The Andromeda Strain. That was the big one, right? Yeah. Back in the day.
That's another one.
That's reality.
Mixed with fiction. Science fiction.
Yes. But he was a real doctor. Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor.
But yeah, it was definitely reading, right?
Yeah, reading I think brings a lot of people in. I know.
Because you
Just
read
growing
that stuff
up, yeah.
and you just it blows your mind more than even a movie can, because you have to picture it yourself.
I mean, we all grew up before the internet, so that was
that's huge.
That was how you got into something. It was like you read it, you pass it on to somebody. Somebody else tells you. You go to the store. You're like, "Oh, look at that! Look at the cover! Look at this!" And you start getting into things. You're like, "What is that? I gotta see it."
Right.
Then I started getting into novels like Asimov and Hubbard and
Yes, yeah. I only did comics like Archie comics and stuff.
yeah.
I mean, I guess that would be for everybody though. For you open the newspaper.
Yeah.
You Sundays you see the comics, you see the different stories. A lot of it was fiction. It's not.
Yeah.
That's right.
But it pulls on what was happening at the time. So
do you remember that magazine that was published for a while, Omni magazine?
I do.
I used to love. I had a subscription to that, and it was filled with real science stuff and a lot of great science fiction stuff, including artwork, drawing, painting, photography, and then it had some short stories, and then it reported on stuff happening in the real science world too. That was a great magazine. I missed that.
And then, so I was doing a lot of reading. Totally got it. Actually, I found reading science fiction to be therapeutic. There was a time in my life where I needed something to balance me out, and I got into read Dune, The Hobbit, all of that stuff. I was just soaking it all in, and then I was like, I was just loading it up. And then was it The Adventures of Gore? That's my dad he used to read those.
Yeah.
When they were finished, he gave them to me, and I read through those, and I give him a Roy, and he read it. Like that. And so there were different books like that we used to hand around and pass off to each other.
Yeah, loved it.
And then Star Wars came out.
Yeah. Oh. That was it.
That was a complete shift.
Everything. Yeah.
For just being attracted to science fiction movies,
Just for our listeners, we're just talking about this little movie called Star Wars that came out back in the 70s. You remember that one?
Little, yeah.
just a little bit.
I remember. You know what I remember when Star Wars came out? I went on a first date with somebody, and I can't remember the movie I took her to.
It wasn't Star Wars.
It wasn't Star Wars. It was like Carrie or something. It was really something stupid. But the advertisement, there was a trailer for Star Wars at the theater at the end of the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, I've got to see that. And the date I was on with was like, I am not going to see that. And then I said, I'm getting you to the train. We're done. That was good.
You don't like Star Wars? You don't even like how it looks?
I hadn't even seen the movie yet, but if you're not into it,
Right?
I'm not into
You can
it.
tell. It's like, oh, if that doesn't make you crazy, you are crazy.
Yeah, I was 17.
I had a first date sci-fi story where I think I was in 8th grade or 7th grade, and I had taken this girl out on a date, our first date, and we went to the movies too. We went to see Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Okay.
And it wasn't like I wasn't old enough to be like one of those guys who's gonna sit in the movie and make out the whole time. We watched the movie. She was bored beyond belief. I loved it. I was stuck, I was watching Star Trek. I was pretty happy. But
Yeah, and that's really what it was, because if you look at it now, it's like, oh, fast forward.
yeah.
Nothing going on here.
Oh,
Really?
God, yeah.
It was just Star Trek.
Right, it was Star Trek on the big screen.
On the big screen.
Yeah.
That was cool
I
in
was
itself.
there for every
And
moment.
then, of course, William Shatner just mailed in as acting. Everybody else tried, but he was like,
But that was part of the gimmick. That was part of the
It was.
what brought you to it, to see how he portrayed this character, because
Yeah.
it was always portrayed as absolutely out of there.
Yeah.
He knew this wasn't a realistic character, but he sold it.
He had to, yeah, he did.
it was great.
He did. We all loved it. We all loved it for one reason or another.
He was a role model.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, still to this day, he's recognized everywhere.
Actually,
he's Bill
I
Shatner.
take that back. Spock was my role model. For real.
Yeah.
I really got a lot of lessons from him at that same time.
Yeah.
I needed logic in my life.
Yeah.
And I got lessons in just,
For sure.
logic has to make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up. I still use that now as a consultant.
Yeah,
It's
that doesn't make any
has to
sense.
make
That's stupid. Where's the common sense?
What's the kind of-
But that's what it is. Logic is basically using your common sense.
Yeah.
It's like, does it make more sense to do this or that? A lot of people don't weigh those options, and it's like, you gotta go one way or the other, not just straightforward.
And he was accused of being super scientific.
Yeah.
Super scientific.
That happens, but if you're into that genre, you're on that show, something brought you to that. Something in them was like, I gotta do this. Regardless if it was a job or not, they still went into that.
They were in outer space
Yeah,
exploring. What are they going to find out
Well, then
there?
the other good thing about science fiction is that it allows to point out major social issues
Yeah.
in
They did a lot of that.
For sure.
a way that it allows you to absorb it,
Yeah.
and sometimes in an undeniable way. Where
Yeah.
It's like, that's some fucked up
I think
shit.
they push that a lot more now. The TV show Norval, that one's very good, but they push a lot of the social, unnorms, I guess, and kind of run with it. And they make some really deep episodes that you're like, wow, I didn't think it would be dealing with this,
Right.
topic or, type of genre in a sci-fi show. And they touch on everything from segregation to, how would it be if it's all,
All males.
male population, and
all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
it's it really branches out on what they offer in sci-fi. It's not just one thing where it's like robots or there's so much more that's built on it. And I think a lot more people have now been giving it more attention with streaming and Netflix, and everything's really accessible.
Yeah, that's helpful. I have to check that out because I didn't know that they were all that serious about.
Oh, it's real
the
good,
writing
yeah.
and putting stuff out there like that. That's cool.
And having fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Definitely a different spin on if Star Trek was
Right.
done
Yeah.
a little more
lighthearted.
Yeah. Not necessarily lighthearted, but more tongue in cheek and more direct on certain topics.
Okay.
Right. Because it's like, it's not homosexuality when it's just the culture is two males have a child.
Right.
You know,
It's just the way
it's like,
that's
this is the way it
society
is. That's
is.
how we do it here.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's kind of a twist that makes you like have to really work on it. So, no, this is our society.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's deep.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
and they're not putting it. It's not like in your face. It's like, yo, you don't have to like it. It's just go on to the next entertaining part of the show.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. But that brings you back into, what brought you into sci-fi. And if they're making shows that are based on Star Trek, because it did so well, it started everybody's, fascination with, kind of TV sci-fi. And it's grown so much where, you have these big budget shows now where they're putting millions upon millions per episode into sci-fi. Look at Lord of the Rings, House of the Dragon now. And all these things are just getting multi-million dollar episodes. And it's just, it makes money because people crave that kind of fascination and entertainment.
Well, yeah, I think though we're talking two things differently when you put in like those two shows, the Power Rings of Power and the House of the Dragons are fantasy.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not as much the sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
But we have, I mean, you're still, your point is taken because let's look at Disney Plus and all.
Yeah, the Mando and the Star Wars
and
universe.
even the Marvel is kind of sci-fi stuff too.
For sure.
Well, it's
I think it's
utilized now.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer like the star of the show. It's a solid backdrop.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. It's like, the Mandalorian, it's like you're in outer space.
Yeah, right.
But that's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
It's
definitely it's a western,
Yeah. And so that's the part that just kind of makes it cool.
Right. Yeah.
And because those are the different races and planets. That's the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You want a western on another planet.
Right.
Why not?
It's classic. Everybody loves that.
So that's cool. But then there's the science. If you think about this, an area where it's like the fear factor part.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence. Are you afraid? Because there's because there's the people who are afraid of that in a very, very real way.
Yeah, like Sarah Connor. She's really afraid of that. She should be terrified of that. She has bad dreams.
Well, actually, she's not as afraid as a lot of other people are.
But they don't even
prepared.
know. They don't know how.
She's ready. She's ready. A lot of people ain't ready.
I mean, thinking about, people who are ready in sci-fi, just movies in general that really popped out were, the Alien series. It starts with somebody completely unaware and not ready for anything that is about to happen, and they sold the build up on that so well that you were just like, all right, it's cool, it's space, it's science.
Oh, no.
There's no such thing as aliens in this world yet that they're aware of, and just seeing they're on another planet, they're mining, they're doing all these things that you're like, wow, this is sci-fi, this is
sci-fi
right and then they
this
just
could happen,
and then it turns horror.
Turns into a horror movie.
Yeah.
See, that's the other cool part where you sci-fi horror mix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's successful
There's
with
a lot
that.
of vampire movies out now.
Yeah. And then I can remember Total Recall when that came out.
Yeah.
That was like action movie. That was a good sci-fi action.
Yeah.
A great sci-fi movie. Action.
Right.
Big hero. the sci-fi backdrop, on Mars.
Mars.
Get your
I mean,
Come on, you gotta have Mars.
I mean,
every now and then. I mean, how many times does Mars show up
right.
in
Yeah.
sci-fi?
It should be there.
I mean, that scene where they show towards the, I think, middle where he's dreaming and his helmet cracks and he's outside and his eyes start to bulge. I was like, how did they do this? This is amazing. This is one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen.
Was it,
You
though?
know, and it was like his face is getting all crazy and he's like, ah. I was like, what is this?
Yes.
And then they pull it. The one
The-
they pull the thing out of his
Yeah,
nose.
the tracking device out of his head.
Yeah.
When you hear the crunch, you're there.
It's amazing.
You know what's coming out? Peripheral.
I love it.
That's coming out at the end of this month.
So good.
It's about the virtual reality where she gets caught in the.
That's a show coming out. That's the
Oh, okay.
but I don't have anything to base that on yet, so we'll skip that for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
Yeah, totally recall. Totally shifted again to another level because it added that high level, that die-hard action kind of
Yeah.
piece in there. You know.
And for me, it was the first Terminator movie because I felt like that was nearly perfect as a film. I was definitely into film when that came out, like, looking at everything that goes into making that movie. And I felt like it was nearly a perfect narrative because it's just one long chase sequence. It's so linear, you could, like, cut your beard with it like a razor. And then the story is like,
time travel.
Leaves everything else.
Yeah,
For you to
there was
just
a lot
be
of
like,
stuff in
what?
there.
Artificial intelligence,
Yeah, time travel,
what's gonna
artificial
happen?
intelligence.
cyborg.
It was all kinds of
And then the whole
time
loop is
loops.
like,
Time loops.
Yeah, it's like, wait, my son will be the one. Wait,
Yeah.
what?
I know.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
People had a hard time wrapping their heads around it.
Oh, yeah.
But that's another the great thing about it is that it keeps your brain kind of going. That
Yeah.
you have to really
Yeah. Makes your
there's some movies you can just watch, and there are other movies that you have to almost take in as
it's
like a
just
lecture.
entertainment. Oh, yeah. No. I see what you're saying.
It's
Right.
like you want to capture what's I think The Matrix did a lot of that.
Yeah.
where it's like you can't just watch it.
Yeah.
There's
makes
a
you-
lot
you
of
have to think
explaining
about it.
in there that
Yeah.
you have to kind of start to absorb about how.
It's like,
Yeah.
if you don't understand what's happening, you're not really going to be enjoying the movie as much.
Right.
Because you don't understand why characters are behaving the way they do, what their actions mean,
Right.
what their dialogue means. And like you're saying, it's like sometimes you feel like, you have to pay such close attention. You watching a movie, what was that, Interstellar?
Yeah, Interstellar is pretty
You're
close
watching
to
that,
that.
and
Yeah.
if you're like, if you blink in that movie, you're just like, oh wait, I'm lost. Rewind it,
Yeah.
because you have to pay attention. And that's, I think, something important we haven't really touched upon is the difference between something that's really good and the difference between something that's not really
So
good.
campy, like real camp.
No. It's just like not camp, because camp can be a lot.
But that's what I'm
of
saying.
fun.
There's some stuff that's like real campy and it's just
It's
terrible.
Well, yeah.
It is just
But there's
the
like,
worst. And then there's the big budget stuff that is just
right.
why did you make this?
That's what I'm talking about. So, like, what comes to mind is that the whole scene. You compare these two movies, which are the Alien movies, which is the first Alien movie, and then when they brought it all back, and what was it called? Prometheus, right?
Yeah.
Which had so much beautiful potential.
Yeah.
And then they put all these characters in there that are idiots. Right?
But they do that with everything.
No, not with everything.
Oh, just
Not with
about
everything.
I mean, you're gonna have some kind of
everybody has to make
driver
a story.
that will send the idiot plot into the frame.
Yeah. But it doesn't take you out of the movie. It doesn't take you out of the story unless it's really idiotic.
But see, now I think that brings up kind of what you said before, where it could be a big budget and be terrible. But if it is a big budget and it's terrible, it becomes this campy film.
Was it Lost in Space? What's his name? Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The doctor.
Dr. Smith.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah.
There's an element
right.
in these science fiction movies that has that Dr. Smith piece. It just seems like somebody
No.
has to say, we got to put a Dr. Smith piece in there.
No, I get that too. I get that too.
That's the running through the forest.
And that's every...
in a horror movie in high heels. It's like, sometimes we do some real stupid shit.
Did you hear that? I'll go check in the basement.
That's funny. There's a commercial on Hulu that deals with the same thing. They're like, in a horror movie, you wouldn't hide behind the hanging chainsaws. Let's get in the running car. And they're like, no.
Are you crazy?
Exactly.
And it's like, there's some kind of idiot device built into these to, for the most part, sell it. And it's very hard to not find it.
No, I disagree, because you look at I have a problem with this particular film because it could have gone a certain way, but they did these things that just ignore, like you're talking about, the logic, the common sense of what you would do in the situation, right?
Yeah.
Because what's the first thing they do?
Look at that.
Exactly. What's the first thing they do when they get into the alien?
Let me stick my face in that very alien thing.
And he's like, it's so cute. What? Are you kidding me? They take off their helmets like, yeah, it smells good in here. Oh, okay. Yeah. No. That's
But
like...
Even in Interstellar, they did the same thing, though. Yeah. They're on the planet, on the water planet, and they're like walking aimlessly out from the ship on this giant water planet, and they're like, "There's nothing around." And then they're like, "Why is the mountain range getting closer?" It's like,
it's a wave.
Yeah, why'd you leave your ship to go nowhere? It's like,
yeah, when stuff is built in like that, it's just not. It takes me out of the story, because I'm just like, well, if you're a trained scientist, are you going to act like a trained scientist, or are you going to act like you're at the zoo on a foreign alien world? Yeah.
Well,
because I'm going to believe one thing and I'm not going to believe the other.
So, Mission to Mars.
Mission to Mars. Right. That's the one with Matt Damon.
No, that was another good one, but it's like really trying to work inside a plausibility type of, way out there, but still try to keep it plausible.
Right.
Science fiction.
Remember Robinson Crusoe on Mars?
Yeah. See, that was, I know I loved that, but that was not. He found a monkey, right?
Yeah.
He found the monkey on the Mars. He crashed on Mars.
No, he traveled with the monkey.
Oh, he traveled with it?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, all right. Yeah, I can't remember that.
He found sausages on a plant.
Sausages.
Sausage plant.
A sausage plant. All right, I gotta get some water.
all right, we're gonna take a break, and we'll be back. And we're back. We were talking about sci-fi and what brings us to this genre. We've touched on quite a few things already. We've touched on Space Odyssey and Terminator and Interstellar briefly, and kind of our views and the impact it's had on the world, or what we can see from those movies in the world around us. We're going to continue our journey. We probably have another 30 minutes left as the first part, and finish this up with a second part. And let's keep on going. What else about these sci-fi genres kind of led you into different areas of sci-fi, whether it be exploring the real stuff coming to us from these movies, kind of like cell phones, and how we literally have rocket launches going off every day and shooting satellites into the sky. All this stuff that I would have never thought, especially when I was a kid, just having a wristwatch that can track my vitals, tell me if I'm going to have a heart attack, let me know, how many steps I've taken, and make a phone call on my wrist. Right. These parts of sci-fi are now in life, and it's we take it for granted for sure, because everybody's got it in their pocket now.
Well, yeah, it's the microwave in every household.
Science fiction has led us to a lot of advancements in thought, but also in reality.
Yeah.
You see the Star Trek flip phone. Scotty, beam me up.
Yeah, I thought that was
and
cool.
make me a sandwich.
I thought that was so cool.
It was cool. And then we used to do that. Everybody had a flip phone, and we would always go when it would come out, make that stupid sound.
It's like, who'd have thunk?
Mm-hmm. I think all the stores and stuff with doors that open automatically should have the Star Trek door opening sound.
Yeah, sliding door.
Yes. Yeah. I think that should be mandatory.
That whoosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, even was it Dick Tracy, his watch.
Yeah, talking.
He had the
Yeah.
He was able to talk on his watch.
The big screen, the big.
Yeah.
On Star Trek, the big.
Yeah.
The view screen.
The view screen.
On screen. And a lot of flat screens.
Uh-huh.
All over the place.
Everything was a flat screen. Touch panels. Everything was touch.
Remember the tricorder?
Yeah.
That came out to be a real thing too, right? It's a cell phone now, basically.
Yeah.
Didn't look like that.
Well, but you can measure your health and with your watch and all that. So
that's right there.
That's a form of it.
There's
heart rate,
there's an app for that, right?
Yeah, mine tracks
real.
my sleep and all that.
That's real.
It's not called a
You
tricorder.
can scan it. You can scan stuff, take a picture,
tell you how
analyze.
Tell you how good your sleep is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I use that every night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's
wonderful.
again, science fiction become reality.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to point out is that there's a therapeutic element for people who enjoy science fiction.
Yeah, it's a way to explore another world.
Oh yeah.
And touching the imagination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
makes you wonder.
Yes.
which in some cases can be like a form of meditation. If you really get into something, you can, after watching a good movie or reading a really good book, it's you have removed all other noises.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
for
quiet
me.
to your
That's
mind.
what
Yeah.
having a good.
I mean that's what makes it worth going back to. It gives you enjoyment. It takes you out of the day-to-day, routine. It gives you something to kind of just sit back and be like, wow, I'm gonna sit back and either read this, watch this, find out more about this, and it kind of lets you just sit back and explore something that is bringing joy to yourself.
I've read the book Dune like 6 times at least, and then the other books in the series 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie countless times, and the new movie,
Right.
Visually, that is one of the
Almost
most
half that.
amazing sci-fi movies I've ever seen.
yeah, I mean, reading that book brought me to a level of thought that was like I had just gone to school.
Yeah.
Like I had just learned so many lessons from reading that book. It opened up my mind, and I thought about things and ideas in ways that would have never occurred to me if I hadn't known those characters and been through that story. Just through that book.
Right.
It was so rich. And that world, that's the thing I was going to say, it was world building. Real world building, is something that lasts the true test of time.
nailing world building
Nailing
is, I think that's the key, is nailing it, because there's so much that's put out, and there's so much where you're like, oh, that would have been better if they did this, or that would have been there's always something to nitpick. But once you get that story that's like, all right, I like that was a good story. You don't have anything to really add. You're content with the content. And I think those are fewer, and I think that's why they're brought up so much. The Blade Runners, and yes, it has its issues, and there's something to nitpick. But at the end of the day, you look at Blade Runner, and you're like, that's damn near perfect sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Can't deny that.
And so, just seeing, the progression of what we're getting now, talking about Dune, the visuals that we get, it's awe-inspiring. You look at this, you 1080p 4K TVs, and you just have this sweeping cinematography of this sci-fi epic. You see this giant, dragonfly spaceship fly across, and this giant worm pop out, and you're like,
that's really happening.
And I went into that movie real skeptical. I was like, it's not going to be good. I was like, they're going to try real hard. And I liked it so much more than I expected to, or even thought I would.
Well, that's a good example of a good book turned into a good movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, the only thing I can really pick apart with the movie, the only thing I can say they really messed up is not releasing part 2 right away. It's like, how do you end it on...
Well, then there's all of my friends who didn't read the books.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's a great movie. Or the ones that did read the book didn't quite get it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is planned to do part 2.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah,
He has to come out a lot more.
Yeah.
With a lot more information there.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I can't wait for part 2. I'm like, oh, why did you do this?
Yeah.
I was disappointed on that element.
Yeah. And then
then I was like, of course.
And then we get really good, like, sci-fi TV now. The Expanse. That's one of those real, you gotta, if you missed it, you gotta rewatch it.
Yeah.
It gets real deep, but it's still fun. You can jump in and say, oh, I watched that. That was crazy. I have no idea who this person or who that was. But the episode from start to end has something that's happening. It progresses.
Yes.
Every episode.
Right. I think a lot of people have that issue with things like that with The Expanse, because it's a serial, but it also is overall continuing a greater, larger story that's almost in the background to the serial events of each week, or each episode. And I think, for me, something like that is easy, especially in this day of streaming. It would be harder during the days like when Battlestar Galactica had come out and you had to like run to the TV to make sure you could watch this week's episode if you didn't have a DVR and you couldn't record it.
Yep.
But you want to know what's going to happen this week, but you also want to know what's going to happen in 3 weeks, because you're like, yeah.
So now I'm on the fence about that too. Or not necessarily on the fence, but I've been spoiled by binging whole seasons.
Yeah.
And now that, I have to wait for the next Star Wars episode to come out, whether it be Bad Batch or, whatever, show is on at the time, waiting every week is terrible.
I've been totally spoiled. Yeah.
Super spoiled.
Like, why can't I watch a series in 2 days?
Right.
Yeah.
2 or 3 days.
And I think I have an issue with that, knowing that these seasons are complete when they start airing them. And, I remember when, the episode was shot, a week or two before it actually aired.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, I understand why I have to wait because the next
They're
one's
still
not
in
there,
production.
yeah. But now it's like that stuff is done. It's been done. They're like, oh, we're gonna release it then. Oh, sorry, we're gonna push it back like a year. And it's like, but it's done. Just I understand that that's a spoiled mentality, and they're putting their work and it.
Is there another Mandalorian coming out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
season,
Oh,
what,
absolutely.
3?
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, three.
3?
Three.
Oh yeah, season 3.
Because we got
Then
Boba.
Boba Fett
Yeah,
will come again
we got
after
1,
that.
2, Boba, and then I think it's.
Yeah.
They said January.
Yeah. Are they adding any more in there?
I don't know. We're supposed to be getting a lot. Ahsoka show is coming out.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, the Andor show's out.
But I have
right
to
now.
watch I have to do all of my background before I can watch Ahsoka, because I haven't watched enough Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And
So
I need that.
Yeah.
there's a lot of filler episodes in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
They have a couple of guides online where you can just go and it tells you the key episodes to watch to kind of get through it faster.
Yeah.
I would say Star Wars Rebels is worth the watch from
Yeah.
start to end. Every episode is
Yeah.
giving you something where you're just like, wow, that's cool.
Okay.
And it really opens up.
But that's after Clone Wars
Yes,
too, right?
yeah, absolutely. But
I'm
it
not
opens
trying
up
to
the
watch it out
Star
of
Wars
orders.
universe
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
You thought the movies were cool. If the movies really brought you in, the cartoons will just,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff will blow your
binge-worthy
mind.
stuff,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, and that's the other animation.
Yeah, animation
taking
now.
it to-
Oh my God.
Yeah. What was
Akira,
Yeah.
and we
Ghost
get
in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell. Oh my gosh.
My favorite
Appleseed.
of all time.
Appleseed
Oh,
was fun.
yeah.
That was
I
love
remember-
that when they, put that all together.
I got
That was nice. Yes.
when Ghost in the Shell Part 2
Yeah.
came out, the movie theater was still open in the mall, and there was a midnight release on the night it came out. And I just found out because this is still right around the time internet's available, but not everybody had a cell phone or a way to look up information. And I had found out that it was doing a midnight release, and I go to a friend and I'm like, dude, you want to go see this? Midnight, it's all subtitles. Let's go watch it.
Let's go.
He has no clue. He's just along for the ride.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, it's a mind bender.
Yep.
Part 2 was definitely not part 1.
Yeah.
It dealt with a whole different kind of information subset, what they were trying to get across for their message. And my friend walked out of that like, what did I just watch? like what was that movie? And Ghost in the Shell's a household name, so he went into it like, oh, okay, and then he watched it and he was like, that was way more than I expected.
Yes.
And it's very rare where a movie theater is going to offer a midnight release for an anime,
right.
and especially a sci-fi anime.
That's not even in English.
But it just goes to, if you enjoy it, it's out there for you.
Yeah.
And it's
So much to choose from.
that's what I'm saying.
Way out there.
It is
That's-
way out there.
yeah.
You can get it just about. It's served everywhere now for you. You go to convenience stores, product packaging, everything crosses over with everything,
I know, right?
and it's like it's kind of hard not to see it now. Even billboards now. You get these billboards that wrap around buildings and they look like they're 3D and they're popping out at you. That's so Blade Runner.
True.
Where the billboards look like they're gonna, come towards you, or they're reaching over a building.
You know what I think we're gonna see next is where was I? Was I with you? Where a car drove by, right? And it had one of those advertisement things on top of it.
Yeah.
Like kind of like a taxi does.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this thing was really thin, and I thought at first it was like a screen, like almost like a TV. But it was just so bright that it looked like it was a screen. It was really well lit from within or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to probably see next, going by on the top of these cars, are those kind of advertisements that look like they're, what do you call it, holograms?
Yeah, holograms. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Totally.
It'll just be stuff being acted out right there.
Yeah. I mean, everything is, is trying to bring the digital into the real world. Was it Meta or whatever, their new headset? It's allowing you to have a pass through where you can see your whole world in color in front of you, and it'll overlay all your digital stuff in right there. And that is the happening now.
Then there's the inventions that science fiction movie makers, writers, all of them have inspired.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of The Abyss.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Another one of my very favorite movies. Yes. I'm going to try to resist from quoting that movie for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. Sorry.
But all of the equipment that was invented to film that movie is now being used for research and filming and a variety of applications. Just taken off. But just so he can bring his creative mind to life.
The innovation.
Yeah, the innovation.
Yeah, of being able to spend money to create something that is fake but can be actually real.
Yeah.
Starts the ball rolling. And somebody says, "Oh, did you see that?"
See, that usually when you start blending that line is when sci-fi is like real good.
Right.
When you're teetering, oh, is this real? Or, because all this stuff is happening now, and then they blend in something that is very plausible.
Right.
And then you're just like, you start.
It's like songs like this don't exist anywhere.
That's it.
But right here. And that shit is actually real.
Yeah,
it
is.
That was not computer generated stuff.
No, that was real.
And now they're using that stuff for deep sea research.
Yeah.
It's like, that's cool. That's cool when it happens.
It is cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's the flip phone, all that stuff, but a whole nother
But
level.
even just a touchscreen phone, just having that in your pocket. Everything is basically run from your phone now. You do your banking, you do, messaging, phone calls, you hold your resume, everything is on your phone. If you need to do some heavier task, yes, there's still, your desktops and your laptops and stuff. But for the most part, the thing you interact with the most is your cell phone. Yeah. And that gets you through your day. There's no more briefcases. There's no more, carrying folders full of things. You carry it on the cloud. Let me log into this.
So society has been changed.
It has been
by
changed.
Science fiction imagination.
100%. And I think we have evolved to the point where you can't say a human is just a human anymore, because so much of our society is run as a hybrid of organic and mechanical things.
But what if you live off the grid, man?
They still have the tools. They still have some kind of tool to feed their life. If you're off the grid, you have a solar panel, you have a windmill. Even if that windmill is not connected to electricity, that is either grinding your grain,
But that's not science fiction. That's real life.
But was it at one point?
It was at one point.
But that's what I'm saying. At one point, there is a point where we get where
using fire.
Something was very science fiction at a point where you're like, there's no way you're going to get something.
In order for it to be science fiction, somebody has to think of it and use it in telling of a story, not necessarily saying,
but that's what
I conceive of this idea and I think this would be good for us to do in society. That's different.
But how many of those stories were already sci-fi when they were written down? There was a starting point someplace where, Leonardo da Vinci, he had no proof of anything, but he made books. People read these books and they thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
And it was a form of, yes, it was science. No, he had no way to actually prove it, but it was at a point science fiction.
Well, yeah, he did scientifically research things, and he did scientifically use the method to investigate the world.
And to him, he knew it. But at that time, everybody
told
thought
somebody else about
that's
it.
what I'm saying. They thought he was crazy.
He's totally wacko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's possessed because the church says that he's crazy.
Yeah, but at some point, life was science fiction for every type of mechanical object.
People didn't believe. There are still people who don't believe that Earth is round.
Yeah.
People still believe that Earth is flat. And some people just can't wrap their head around the fact that.
Yeah.
Our phones have already tapped into our consciousness.
So.
Yeah.
But that's it. At some point.
Even when
life
you can look
mimics
on your
sci-fi
phone and actually look at the globe we're on.
Yeah.
From where you are.
No.
You ever do that? Like, do your location and then zoom way out so you can see the whole globe?
Go to the
I can do
It's
that.
scary if you think about it.
I can do that without my phone because I have a cannabis card.
Yeah.
So I don't need my phone to imagine
Think about
myself.
I was thinking earlier about in what I can't remember what the movie was, but it was like some futuristic thing. But there was a mandatory smoke break.
Oh, nice.
And I'm just thinking about things that were considered like absolutely you can't do that are now prescribed.
Yeah.
And so I just thought of.
I love that.
We have marijuana shops.
Oh,
where
yeah.
that was supposed to be like absolutely,
can't
that's
smoke.
turned over. But that's like another futuristic type of a thing.
That's kind of true. Yeah.
Think way out into the future where marijuana is legal.
Right.
Yeah. Think out in the future where you have to smoke nicotine for your health.
For your
At
health.
some point.
Right.
I mean, it's weird shit like that.
I gotta go get my baby's nicotine.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
We do not promote nicotine.
Wasn't it in like science fiction movies as well, where it's like the first time you saw like a black president and stuff like that? Wasn't
of
it
course.
Like fiction?
Yeah.
Oh, big time. Big
Right?
time.
It wasn't one of those,
But like I said, at some point, life was science fiction, or vice versa. Science fiction became life.
Became real. It went from science fiction to science fact.
Yeah, and I feel like it crosses over more and more.
Yeah.
As we move forward in time.
I agree. I agree. It's faster.
Yes. Think of it. I'm before our day and age now. To record this would have taken quite a bit of equipment. This would have taken maybe a PC, a giant recording studio. The mics would be impossible to get, especially at this quality. But now it's run off something the size of your cell phone with a couple of cables connected, and you're getting studio quality. Yeah. This would have been something that would have cost a school would have tried to get for their. You
get a grant for it.
We got to study for that.
And now people can produce, movies in their homes, podcasts, animations. They can publish a whole book and have it ready without talking to a single person. Right. Everything is geared towards we can use technology to push our message anyway.
We can build them.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come. Faster. But it becomes so much more sci-fi now because you can go up, like the quote in what is it, Back to the Future. Yeah. He's he can't just go to a Radio Shack and pick up, uranium. But it's getting to the point where your car is run off of a giant lithium-ion battery that you plug into your house.
It's like, what?
It's getting closer and closer to the point where it's not hard to reach 88 miles per hour. That was sci-fi at a point where they were trying to push a car at 88 miles per hour, and that was fast. And now it's like, oh, that car only goes 110. Your car sucks. It's like, what? Who?
Well, and then as well, thinking about future planning of urban centers are coming out of science fiction imagination.
Yeah.
Of, how cities will look, how they could look,
utopian, and how they can make it more user friendly. Air quotes were used.
We have too many cars now, and when we get good planners, we don't have good planners now.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have rapid transit that's gonna be,
Way
that's
better.
gonna actually work
Yes.
and be
Well, the
efficient.
stuff is already,
Yeah.
already existed, it's just not available.
It's not. It's the technology is there, but
Yeah.
the will isn't, because
Right.
we're right now we're still being monopolized by oil
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
the
gonna
oil
crash.
industry.
Because people don't want to embrace the sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Look to
the solar
future.
panels and
Solar
the
panels.
the
Everybody
windmills and the. I mean, you can put a portable windmill on your roof now.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not
Well, you
standard
could
to
stick
put them all over the city.
monorails in and
Yeah.
have,
But nobody. The money's not. The people who control the money aren't investing in what we think would make sense.
They can't control
Yes.
the masses anymore.
No.
So, but
and if
but
we
that's
improve, think of it, if we improve rapid transportation, then the auto industry takes a big hit.
yeah. But think of it.
And-
That comes back to the biggest trope for sci-fi.
Yes.
There's some corporation controlling, your access to everything.
Yeah.
They go
And
far behind the auto
but
industry.
But also making sure that technology is not available to everyone.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. But sci-fi is
Elysium, right? That's
Far
the
behind
Yeah.
the cars.
for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
They
Cars
had
have been running
the
same way for over 100
medical
years.
things
Yep.
that just have hundreds of thousands of them and don't use them for anybody.
Right.
But sci-fi. Sci-fi is life. Li-fi. Li-fi.
Li-fi.
Li-fi.
Oh, you just coined a new one. Li-fi.
What are you, Li-Fi?
Life fiction.
Life fiction.
I like it.
You Li-Fi.
But that it's a journey, and once you get into sci-fi, it's very hard to get out.
I never want to get out.
Well, the
I
line
like
between
sci-fi.
fiction part,
Yeah.
and science and reality continues to get thinner.
Yeah.
Thinner
It's so
and
blurred. I mean,
thinner.
the James Webb telescope.
Yeah.
It gets these clear pictures, and it's not just one.
Yeah.
It's how many mirrors pointing towards an image, and they realign it, and they use all these images to get us views of the universe. And they're saying that it'll be able to view and image the universe to a point where it will take years just for us to be able to get a clear picture of what we're looking at.
But it's collecting
Yeah, it just collects
picture from
just every part of the
Gazillion
universe.
light.
Yeah,
years away.
as far as we can see,
Right.
or as it can see.
Is that it can see as it can record. Wow.
Which means if there's intelligent life out there, then it's built a telescope where it's looking at us too.
Yeah, we look like a bunch of ants.
Wait, can you see the headline for that? New telescope from NASA gets photobombed by aliens.
But what if they've been studying us and just looking at,
I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's
the atmosphere? It's like, wow, the atmosphere is full of carbon now.
And if they wanted to attack
life is gonna
us.
last
Yeah,
down there if they keep that up. That's,
Right.
it's like,
Yeah, they probably shouldn't do that. Should we tell them? should we say anything? We're just gonna let them, figure it out. No.
But that has been a pretty good talk, I think. And without further ado, I think that concludes our part 2.
I want to say one more thing.
What do you want to say?
The crane! The crane! We lost the crane! It's on its way down to you!
Doink! That's how it sounds.
He was holding that quote back.
very well.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love that line. I love that line so much.
Well, this has been a production by Treehouse Villains. Please subscribe. Good night. Good morning.
night.
Happy New Year.
Good, good, good morning.